welcome back to the Candidate Debate and Forum, all candidate, nonpartisan debates and forum, hosted by the Woodlands Area Chamber of Commerce's Business Advocacy Council, partnered with Woodlands Online. If you've joined us late, I'm Sean Thompson, the news editor for Woodlands Online, moderator for these debates and forums, and now we're about to start the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District Board of Directors Debate and Forum. We have 4 candidates from that today. I'll talk to you about them in a second. First, let me talk to you about the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District, otherwise known as the LSGCD. I don't think that's much better than saying it all out loud. The Conservation District was created by the 77th Texas Legislature in 2001 with the purpose of preserving, conserving, and protecting Montgomery County's groundwater supplies. Its creation was confirmed by local voters with nearly 75% approval by those casting ballots in the elections that year. It is not a taxing entity. The voters in Montgomery County were given the choice between an ad valorem tax or the establishment of well production fees, and they chose the latter. Because Montgomery County is mostly residential, the bulk of these fees are paid by the water utilities and private water providers and passed on to their consumers. So that is the Groundwater Conservation District. I have from my left to right, for position 3, I have Kenneth R. Ernest. Also running for position 3, I have next to him James Ridgway Jr.
What?
Sorry.
You're welcome.
Next to him for position 7, I have John Yours. And also for position 7, next to him, Larry Rogers, who is the current incumbent for position 7. And I meant to mention Kenneth Ernst is also the incumbent for position 3. So gentlemen, as you know, I'm about to ask each of you a question in turn. You have up to 60 seconds to answer. And if you reference an opponent, they get to talk back. So I'll start off with Kenneth. So, Kenneth, you apparently, in researching you, I found that you have a strong environmental background, especially in the company of Fisher Arnold. The Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District, this is a quote from you on one of your sites. The Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District helps Montgomery County meet its most critical water challenge, finding the water to support growth without continuing to deficit pump the Gulf Coast aquifer. Can you please go into detail about the issues with the aquifer that is currently the issues with the aquifer?
So there are several issues with the aquifer right now. One of them is there's varying reports on recharge rates within the Gulf Coast aquifer system. It just recently got amended to over 90,000 acre feet per year. So with the growth of Montgomery County, we're having to deal with meeting the usage of what's demanded within the county. So we're dealing with the recharge rates along with there are some subsidence issues. For sure there are subsidence issues occurring within the county. So we're charged with not only protecting property rights, but also subsidence. And we're in the middle of really completing those studies right now. Those should be done by the middle of 2023 as far as some of the modeling and some of the specific things that are going to be done with the Gulf Coast aquifer.
Thank you very much for your answer. Next, I have James Ridgway Jr. My question for you is, in researching you, I saw that you were very vociferous about no special interests as part of your campaign. Now, one statement about the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District, it's preparing to implement a groundwater withdrawal plan known as a DFC, Defined Future Conditions, that will definitely increase the amount of water taken from ground and will reduce the water table under southern Montgomery County. Can you address this question? I can repeat it for you if you need it.
What is the question?
So
I agree with everything. Yes, yes, all that is true.
So the statement is LSGCD is preparing to implement a groundwater withdrawal plan known as the DFC, Defined Future Conditions, that will definitely increase the amount of water taken from the ground and will reduce the water table under southern Montgomery County. Can you defend or support this position?
I will tell you how I feel about that. There is a larger group of people that work together. That's the whole idea with regional water planning, because these aquifers, these water supplies, they don't know where this boundary starts and this one stops. So the idea of DFCs, you're looking out 60, 80 years into the future, which is hard for any one of us to think that far ahead. But it's really important that we do, or at least we hope our grandkids won't be pissed at us. But the idea, at least right now with the current DFCs, is that it does allow so much taken out that we can see that it's going to lead to subsidence. And there's been a lot of feedback from the community on that, on what is acceptable subsidence. So I don't think it's acceptable. I live in the Precinct 3 area. I grew up here. I had a home that almost flooded, and I mean, it came right to my door. So if any of you feel that way, you might not like that acceptable subsidence either.
Thank you for your response there. Excuse me. My next question is for John Yours for position 7. John, the Texas Water Development Board approved the district's management plan, which included the district's commitment to conduct a multi-phase subsidence study specific to Montgomery County. Now, I know Kenneth just talked about the study should be available in 2023, and subsidence has been raised by the issues. I'd like you to discuss your stance on the subsidence issues in regards to the study that we're still waiting on.
Well, we don't need to redo the science. We've got science and we've got data. The science of the aquifer says that when you create a void by pumping the water out, the media in the aquifer collapses. Ultimately, that collapse goes all the way to the surface. We found with the Porta Major site, number 13 in the Woodlands, that when you lower the water table, you will create subsidence. Over a number of years, the water table under the Woodlands has dropped to 350 feet below sea level. That has created at that time 9 inches of subsidence. So for about every 30 to 50 feet that you drop the water table under your home, that will give you 1 inch of subsidence. That's the data. That's the science. Lone Star keeps redoing the science, trying to get a better number, but it's there. The Woodlands has demonstrated that subsidence is real. The Woodlands has demonstrated what you do to avoid subsidence is you maintain the water table at its current level by using surface water. We're doing that today. 50% of the water in the Woodlands is surface water, 50% is groundwater. We will continue to maintain that to avoid subsidence for the residents of the Woodlands. We can do that for entire Montgomery County.
Thank you very much, John. And my final first round question goes to Larry Rogers. Larry, the Groundwater Reduction Plan Division, the GRD, is responsible for implementing a countywide program that will meet the requirements of the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District to substantially reduce future groundwater usage from the Gulf Coast aquifer. This is a statement that was on the SJRA site. Do you support the Groundwater Reduction Plan Division? If so, why? And if not, why not?
The Texas Water Board, that's part of our thing that we're supposed to do. And we're supposed to look at it. As one of the gentlemen said, you have to plan out. We have to put a plan together that goes out 50 years. Look in our crystal balls and determine what we're really going to need in 50 years. That's kind of hard to do. Your ball may be better than my crystal ball. So it's a very hard thing to come to. And that's what we have to do.
Thank you for the answer. I appreciate that. We're going to quickly move your microphone a little closer to your mouth for the next round of questions there. Excuse me.
And that was about the GRP division? I'm just for
Yes,
notes.
yeah, Groundwater Reduction Plan Division.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
well, appreciate that. So with those being said, now I'm going to open it up to the second round of questions. I'll go back to Kenneth. Was there a question that was asked of you or someone else that you want to expand upon?
Yeah, I do. I think it's worth talking about. By the way, I'm a hydrogeologist. I've got over 30 years experience. I've been doing this since the 90s. I deal with groundwater every day in my job, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what needs to be done. But let me clarify on subsidence, at least from my perspective. I'm data-driven, and I follow the science. There is currently no data on the aquifers within Montgomery County, specifically in Montgomery County, related to aquifer compaction. Again, as a geologist, there can be many things that cause subsidence other than groundwater withdrawal. Now, I'm not saying that it's not groundwater. All I'm saying is we've not done the science yet to figure out what is causing subsidence. So, and I really want to work together with all of the stakeholders within the county to move this forward as far as looking at the subsidence issues. So, by the way, I'm not a politician, I'm a geologist, so I'm very nervous up here, so I apologize. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer, Kenneth. Appreciate that. Okay, next for James, is there a question that was asked from you or someone else that you want to expand upon?
Yeah, I'll just follow up. I'm not, like my Mr. Ernest, the importance of being earnest, a hydrologist, is that?
Hydrogeologist.
Hydrogeologist, which there's a difference. That's why I hesitated. I got a degree in philosophy because apparently I hate making money, but I worked at the Groundwater District for 3 years as education/public awareness coordinator, went all around this county talking to people about groundwater and listened as well. I learned quite a bit. And, to Mr. Ernest's point about no definitive, I don't know that there's been any studies on whether the leprechauns are in the pot of gold is at the end of the rainbow, but I don't know that would make any sense to draw any kind of conclusion to that. But to then try to draw a correlation between groundwater pumpage and subsidence, I think, that makes a lot of sense that there could be something there. Anyway.
Thank you very much for your answer. Appreciate that. Next for John, was there a question that was asked of you or someone else that you want to expand upon?
Let's talk more about subsidence. If subsidence was not related to groundwater withdrawal, then when the woodland switched to surface water, then subsidence would not have stopped. But it did. That's data. How can we keep looking for science, but we've got data. Data in the woodland says that as long as we're operating with the needs of the citizens, 50% groundwater, 50% surface water, we can maintain the water table under the woodlands. That's hard data. Other sites show the same thing. Shows as you withdraw groundwater, the water table goes down, you get subsidence. I don't know what the issue is that we're trying to get the consultants who we're paying a lot of money to define for us, but we've got the data. We just need to react to the data.
Thank you for your answer. And finally, I've got, for Larry, was there a question asked of you or someone else that you'd like to expand upon?
The subsidence. In 2020, the board approved our subsidence study. It's a 3-phase study. We finished phase 1, phase 2 we just finished, and we're on phase 3. Phase 3 would determine where we would put more wells to determine subsidence. We're responsible for subsidence in all of Montgomery County, not just the woodlands. And so we have to do more science to protect all of the residents in Montgomery County. And we'll, as Ernest said, we're proposed to finish phase 3 early next year.
Thank you very much for your answer, gentlemen. Okay, instead of going right into the where you get to your closing arguments, I'm going to pose a question for all. First hand goes up to want to answer. This is for an open discussion. Again, each for a minute. Of course, Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District, when researching first off the water forum that I moderated a couple of months ago, and then this, it is not easy for the layperson to understand, especially with the different agencies. And from what I understand, there's a history of sometimes a contentious relationship. We have the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District, we have the San Jacinto River Authority, we have different aquifers, we have subsidence in 2 different points, we have HARC, so we have Woodlands Water, we have all these agencies. Please discuss to you the importance of the interdepartmental cooperation or lack thereof that's essential to get the water issues answered. And
Buzz.
James, your answer.
Hit my buzzer. Yeah, I'll speak to that. So the state of water in general in Montgomery County is an absolute total mess, and it's because instead of working together to address our immediate needs, as well as balancing the long-term needs that we just discussed for generations to come, we've just been fighting and suing each other for, over half a decade at this point, to the tune of millions and millions of dollars. And every time I think about that, I just feel like you've got this one entity that has lawyers, and the same people from that entity pay the other side's lawyers with their fee payer money. So you're paying for both an offense and a defense in some places of the county. And I just always get this vision of lawyers just winking at each other 5 years into a lawsuit. And I just imagine, what could we have done if we could have gotten back to that table, hammered out some solutions? Maybe we don't get everything we want, but this has just gotten absolutely absurd.
Thank you for that answer. John, you're next.
I think everybody's working together better than you think. I was a Grogan's Mill Village Association director when we went through the floods of 15, 16, maybe 17, and I heard about the people in Lower Grogan's Point and High Oaks wanting to know more about subsidence. So what I did was I went to the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District. I talked to them about what kind of a meter would you install. I went to the Woodlands Water, who is managing through the trustees, the MUDs. I went to the Grogan's Mill Village Association. I went to the SGRA, who provided the land. I went to Lone Star. I got a subsidence meter installed. First subsidence meter that has been installed in Montgomery County since 2015. I worked with all of them. They were happy with that. It cost me $15,000. I got it done. That's what I do.
Thank you for your answer. And finally, Larry, would you like to answer this question?
Would you repeat the question again?
Absolutely. The importance or lack thereof of the different water agencies that comprise of Woodlands Water in general, working together or not.
Very interesting. The Woodlands, George Mitchell sold or gave, I really haven't been able to determine which it was, all of the MUDs that he owned in the Woodlands to San Jacinto River Authority. That is a big conflict of interest. How can the surface water board of directors be on the board of directors of San Jacinto River Authority, which is a groundwater? And that happened. So there has been some feuding between San Jacinto and Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. I think it's beginning to subside a little. Shouldn't use subside. I think it's beginning to pull together a little bit. We're trying to work together, and we look forward to working together.
That might need a fact check on the George Mitchell part, though, just for later. I don't know that George Mitchell gave.
I didn't say gave.
Okay, sorry, I must have misunderstood.
I didn't.
Apologize.
SGRA does not own the MUDs.
They're just operators.
They just operate.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, gentlemen.
Do I get a crack at that?
Absolutely. A brief crack.
So yeah, to be clear, Lone Star is not involved in any litigation right now. All the litigation that's going on in water within the county is between SGRA and various other, get them confused, I think that's their plaintiff. So we settled all of our suits several years ago, but let me say, we have got to solve water problems in the county, and we've got to get all the stakeholders in one room and we've got to hash this out and figure this out. So it's got to happen.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop that particular line of questioning now. We're going to the final round of this section, which you each have 90 seconds to state whatever you like, and I'm going to do it in reverse order this time. So Larry, why don't you start off with 90 seconds of your position or platforms?
I've been serving on the board for 4 years. Was elected in 2018, which was very unusual because up until 2001 until 2018, the board, Lone Star Groundwater District Board, was appointed by the governor. And finally, I didn't have anything to do with it, but I was happy that it became a elected position. Why? Because election candidates, we answer to you people. We answer to the citizens of Montgomery County. You don't like us, fire us. And that's the way it should be. If I was appointed by the governor and you didn't like what I was doing, all you could do is complain. So I'm really glad that we're elected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next for John, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. I want to represent all the people of Montgomery County and their private property rights. You know, we talk about private property rights of the people who own the water under the homes, but I want to represent the people who own the homes and their property rights, because you can have a case where a large groundwater well is permitted next to your home, 300 gallons a minute or more, and that can create subsidence. That does not protecting your property rights. So I think my view would be that I want to protect everybody's property rights, both those who own the water and those who live above the water. The science and the data to me are pretty clear. We have to use, with the growing population in Montgomery County, we have to have a mix of groundwater and surface water. We cannot afford to lower the water table. Lone Star has contour maps showing that if they implement the DFC over time, southern parts of southeastern Montgomery County will subside by 4 feet. That's just unbelievable, and we can't let that happen. I want to represent the residents. I want to see that the groundwater management plan has a component in it for surface water. I want to give the residents the option of taking surface water versus groundwater, and I want to be able to solve those problems. You can learn more about me at looking at the website www.siren2022.com, and I wish for your vote.
Thank you very much, John. Next, James, your 90 seconds.
Thank you. To circle back to the beginning about maybe some of those visceral, John and I worked together on Siren 2022. Siren standing for Special Interest Representation Ends Now. I know, it's a lot. But the point behind that, well, maybe I'll just back up and admit that I'm also a recovering journalist, and I worked in this area for 2010 to 15. I was the managing editor of The Villager. One of my beats was water. I can tell you about radionuclide contamination near Lake Conroe, but I picked up some stuff along the way. And the old cliche journalist move is follow the money. And that's part of what's inspiring the name for Siren, because over 100,000, 200,000, if you add some other contributors, donated money to not Mr. Ernest, he's new, but you're guilty by association. So to the directors that are now on that board. And if you go look at other campaigns, other elections, I mean, that's a lot of money for a very small district. And personally, and this is my opinion, you don't have to agree with me, but after over 300 pages of open record requests, I find that there's an over-friendly relationship with a private water utility that just so happened to put a couple $100,000 into their campaign funds. So,
Thank you for your comments. And finally, for Kenneth, Ernest, please.
Yeah, where to start? So I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I've lived in in our house for over 16 years now in the Woodlands. Love it. I'm a hydrogeologist with over 30, you heard that earlier, 30 years experience. I deal with data every day. I'm data-driven. This is what I want to do. I am taking zero money. I'm self-funded. The district offers a stipend. I do not take the stipend. Zero. There is no one influencing me. I'm a free thinker, and I follow the data, okay? Other things just to consider, I am a Republican precinct chair over Precinct 6 in the Woodlands. I'm on the County Republican Steering Committee. I'm very involved in politics. That's pretty much it. I think I can add something to the board that is not there. That I think I can move the needle from a scientific perspective and bring some good questions as we move forward.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so this was the debate for the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District Board of Directors. Please give a round of applause for Kenneth Ernest, James Ridgway, John Yours, and Larry Rogers.